Hi guys, Andy here, athletics coach and muscle activation specialist here, and I just wanted to talk about how world records are broken and how the athletes, specifically how the athletes are after they've just broken it, after they've just crossed the line. I just want to concentrate on that for this video, but just now I just want you to make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so you get to see more videos like this, and make sure that you are capitalizing on all your potential as an athlete, because you need to know about relaxation as a sprinter, as a 400-meter runner, if you want to reach anywhere near your potential. Don't rely on training. You can't just do that. It's how you are as you do the training. But let's talk about those athletes that broke world records and how they were straight after that race. Let's think about, and specifically, let's think about the middle distance events like 800 meters. Very much like David Rudisha in the 2012 when he broke the world record in 800 meters. Let's think about Michael Johnson in 1999, Wade Van Niekerk in 2016, which I'll talk a little bit more about because that's quite an interesting. And think about maybe Femke Bol, who's just broken the indoor world record. Now, these athletes finished the race, the fastest anyone had ever been in that race, ever in history. They finished it celebrating. Did they look that much tired at the end of that race? No, they were celebrating. And why did they not feel the extreme fatigue? Because the normal run of the mill is like you've got to, if you want to run fast, if you want to get the success, you've got to put in more effort than anybody else. Okay, put in more effort. If you want to run faster than anybody's ever done in history, you've got to put in more effort than anybody else. And you've got to put in more effort than you've ever done to get that time, because you have to go faster than you've ever been. Okay, it means that more effort means more success. Well, obviously that's not the case, is it? Those guys finished that race and probably, I don't know, they've never said, but they wouldn't be as tired as they have been in previous races. Because why was that? Were those athletes, when they'd run the fastest time they'd ever been and that anybody else had done in history, and they weren't as tired or lactic riddled at the end of the race? Now I'm saying they would feel fatigue. Obviously they'd be tired, but they wouldn't be on the floor, lactic riddled, couldn't get up for 10 minutes, heavy breathing. That you'll see from the other athletes following them, they would be on the floor in absolute ribbons. But these athletes know. Does it make you think how they are? I mean, it's really weird. Why was that? And the reason is because they were in the flow. They were relaxed for that race. They balanced their race perfectly. And they were in the right state at the start of the race as well. And this is really, really important. To get faster, to reach your potential, to run faster than you've ever done, you're not going to be, well, at the end of that race, you're likely, far more likely, not to be as tired as you have been in previous races, because you need that flow state. You need to be in the best state you've ever been for racing. But think about how we train. We train hard. Think it's 400 meters, we need that endurance, we need that fitness, and we train hard. And I know the 400 meter crew train hard because they are committed. I wouldn't say the most committed, but they are committed athletes. The best are. And they'll put their body through absolute torture for those sessions, those training sessions. And they'll make sure they're producing that amount of lactic acid to make sure that they're pushing themselves to the limit. And when they finish those races, I know because I train athletes like this, when they finish those training sessions, they're on the floor. It takes 20 minutes maybe to recover from those training sessions. But we have to think about, is that doing us any good? If we're training like that, are we producing the best race for that? If those athletes that just finished that race were not as tired as they normally are, and they're celebrating, they're happy, they're running about the place after finishing that race, even in the 800 meters. They're celebrating. They're not tired. And yet, if they run the fastest time, if we think of it as a training session, in the same mentality as a training session, the more effort you put in, the more success you have. Can't be the case. Okay? So it's basically what we have to think about. Are you putting bad habits into it? Are you producing too much lactic? Because if you're producing too much lactic, you're likely going to be kind of solidifying habits of tightness into your training sessions, because lactic is uncomfortable. It's heavy as well. It stops you from training, and that probably causes you to put in more effort into your running stride when you do it. If you're putting in too much lactic, not only is it raising stress levels, and it's quite toxic as well, because you create a byproduct called ammonia, which is quite toxic to the body. It inhibits recovery if you train too much with it, too much lactic. Pavel Zatsulin is a strength training expert that talks a lot about the creation of ammonia through lactic. And it's not a great thing. We need to be making sure that we're actually incorporating relaxation into our training sessions. And that means kind of pulling back on the lactic. That means pulling back on the effort we put in training sessions, into our reps, into our 300-meter reps, into our 500-meter reps. And into our speed endurance training. Because more lactic obviously doesn't lead to better times. The racing shows that. The racing shows that in the best. And I bet it is for you as well. When you look back on your fastest 400-meter runs, I bet they weren't the most tiring. It's just if you are a consistent and experienced 400-meter runner. Maybe if you run a couple of races, yeah, and you got quicker on your second race because you put in more effort. Maybe. Fitness plays a part for one part. But as your training age increases, as you spend a lot more time training and in your sport, you're going to have to find that edge, find that different way to get faster, because it gets tougher to get faster in a way, because we have to make sure that our body is in the right state to do it. Remember, all those athletes who ran the world record times in horrible events, weren't tired at the end, they were celebrating. And that's something to consider. Are you training in the right way? Are you approaching the racing in the right way? Specifically if you're a 400-meter runner, are you approaching the racing in the right way? And are you creating too much lactic in those races? Because if you are, you weren't in the right state when you started. You weren't loose enough in the first part of the race. That doesn't mean you have to slow down. You can create the same amount of effort, the same amount of speed, but with less effort. That's what happens when you actually incorporate relaxation into your warm-up, into those 10 seconds before you get in the blocks, and you incorporate relaxation, you learn to use up less energy and create the same amount of speed. So this is what I just wanted to get you to think. Make sure that you're actually incorporating relaxation into your training. It's very important, so you actually train yourself for racing. If you're actually putting in too much lactic acid into your training sessions and training yourself through effort to train as hard as you can, likelihood that you're training yourself to be tight for racing. Because there's a certain thing, race fitness, it's not all about fitness that you do in training, it's how you are as you compete. It's how you are as you compete. It's how relaxed you are in the start line, in the blocks, and the first part of that race. And it's not about how much lactic you create in that race. It's not about creating as much lactic as possible in that race. It's not about that. That will slow you down, and you will have slow times. Have a think about that. Subscribe to my channel, notification bell, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you